Hello, fellow humans, and how do you play a tank that has no armor? Because if you don't have any skill, then you need armor, because armor is your skill. But if you have no skill and no armor, what do? Well, get good, I suppose. But that is what we're going to talk about today in this video. How do you get good with tanks that have no armor? And that is a demonstration. I will be using the Leopard PTA, a vehicle with the excellent gun. Very good weapon handling. Only 6 degrees of gun depression, however, so that is a huge downside to this vehicle. Pretty solid mobility, be it this game is played with a stock engine, because I just decided to get it on NA. I don't know why, but anyway. And the armor obviously does not exist. Now, the first thing you want to do is use your mobility, get into a forward position that is useful, but don't YOLO. Like a forward position like this one is very important and very useful, because that's when you can get your first damage. The best time to do damage is at the beginning of the battle and at the end of the battle. Because at the beginning, everyone's unorganized, trying to get to some spot, trying to do something. And especially if it's a heavy tank, they're going to be a lot slower to get there than you are. So you can capitalize off essentially the heavy tank's travel time to already get some early damage in right there. And then obviously at the end of the battle, but we'll get to that later. Now, the first thing you want to do is obviously understand the situation, know what is going on, because let's say I would go over there with the heavies. I have less alpha damage than the heavy tanks, I have less armor than the heavy tanks, which means if I fight them, I will lose. And that's not what you want to do. You always want to understand the situation and fight tanks that you can fight, and that are ideally also distracted. That's number 2. Fight enemies that can't fight you. They're distracted. That eyes you, he's not paying attention. But then when there is someone coming right into your face, then you kind of have to fight them, right? Well, not really, because if you're having in a situation like this, and the guy's coming at you, and he's coming hard. Not really, but anyway, he's losing. The Indian Panzer in this situation is losing. He has already lost by taking this fight. Like, the second that Indian Panzer started that fight, he already lost. And that's what you have to understand as well. If you're fighting a vehicle that is better than your tank, you have 2 options. You can either die or you can run, because you're playing a paper tank. And unless your paper tank is something like a Stura Ammo, you're most likely to have the better mobility. So you can run away. Which you should, if you're in an unfair situation. But, obviously, if you're in an unfair situation towards the enemy, fight them, you get rid of them, and then you go forward. Because now we'll get to the end of the game, and that is also where we do a lot of damage. Because at the end of the game, there is not a lot of enemies left, or a lot of teammates, given your quality of your own team. Then it's a lot more disorganized. Because the last enemies, they're trying to sort of hold on, and trying to get their last damage in. And then you can do something and go forward, and you have a lot more freedom the less enemies there is. Now, in this case, I'm hoping that the Jagdtiger shoots the Jagdtiger, but the Jagdtiger chooses to shoot me. So instead, I now go back behind cover because I don't want to die. Now, the Jagdtiger shoots the Jagdtiger. I know the Jagdtiger's reload is about 8 seconds, which means I can peek out. Ideally, you don't peek out rearwards, but anyway, now the Jagdtiger kills the Jagdtiger, and now I can shoot the Jagdtiger, because again, the Jagdtiger is focusing on other teammates. So, in that regards, if you're playing a paper tank, you want to be the biggest communist on that map. Everyone's hit points is your hit points, basically. That is how to extend your own armor. Because if you don't have any armor, you need skill. And one way of getting extra armor as well is by simply using your teammate's armor. And another thing that I already sort of mentioned, but that's also very important, be fast. Not just with the vehicle, because obviously the faster your vehicle is, the more options you have, and the harder you have to think of where to go, but the faster you can peek as well. If you play a quicker vehicle, you can spend less time being exposed, because obviously your tank can peek a lot quicker, and you have to want to make use of that. Now, ideally, if you're playing on a phone, that is going to be very difficult to do that very quickly. If you're playing on a PC, it's relatively easy. On a tablet, I imagine it's somewhat easier than a phone, but still, if you are a mobile player, try your best to get quicker, to coordinate your driving and shooting together. Basically, don't miss, but if you are exposed, less time. The enemy has less time to aim, the enemy has less time to damage you, which is a good thing for you. Like here, I wait a bit too long, I change direction, I change ammo type, and I wait too long and I get shot. It's not ideal. But now here, You see that? I just peek and then immediately drive back. I don't even stop. I just drive forward, I drive back. And then in that time, I fire. Now, yes, you might not hit all of your shots that way, but you can get very precise with it. And if you are very precise with it, and you're better at it than all of your enemies, they don't have a chance. So that is also something very useful here. Be fast with a fast tank. Or, one thing that is also very important, if you can't do that, then get unspotted. Reset your camouflage. Because if you reset your camouflage, it takes about 10 seconds, then the enemy doesn't know that you're there and they have to spot you first, and then they can react. Again, increasing the enemy's time to react, making it easier for you to peek, shoot, and retreat without getting shot at. That's very important as well. So you want to increase your own chance of getting a shot in, but you also want to decrease the enemy's chance of getting a shot in. So, very simple. If you can't be fast, just hide. But don't hide too far. And now, this game is a 4v7, which is very bad. And what you want to do in a situation like this, you know, especially a paper vehicle, is preserve all of your hit points. Like, you do not want to get into a fight right now that's going to cost you all of your hit points. You want to keep those hit points alive as much as possible, because that's all you have. If you don't have your teammates' hit points at your disposal, you only have your own. So keep them. If your team's crumbling apart and you're already doing really well like this, just keep your own hit points alive. And get lucky by bouncing Type 57. So keep your hit points alive in a situation like this. And if you are in a disadvantaged situation and you do leave him on 1 HP, you want to be safe. You do not want to now attack that type. You don't want to attack that IS-8. You don't just rush in there and fight them. No. If you are in a disadvantaged situation, especially in a paper tank, in any tank really, but especially in a paper tank, you see, again, peek quickly, he has no chance to react, I get the shot, he doesn't. That's how that goes. But especially if you're in a situation like this, you only peek if you know that you can't be shot back. Right, in this case, I do get shot back, but here, it doesn't matter now because the only tank that is left alive is the Type 57. You do not want to engage with vehicles that you don't know you will win against. Only fight fights that you know you'll win. It takes a while to learn how to win a fight, because the way to win a fight is to first lose a lot of fights and understand why you lost them. And that is true especially for a paper tank, because skill is your best armor. And it takes quite a while. But I hope this was helpful. I hope the things I told you were useful. And with that, see you next one. Goodbye.